All right, guys. We're about to make a video that I never in a million years thought I would make or that I would ever be asked to make. Yeah, this is that video. Where do I start? I've been asked multiple times. I've gotten multiple emails. I've gotten multiple phone calls, text messages, you name it. I've received it from subscribers and even just some friends. And they've asked me the same question. Should you or I pay over MSRP for a car? Any car. But for the sake of this video, the C8 Corvette. Should you pay over MSRP for a C8 Corvette? Let's dive into it. So by now, guys, you probably already know I bought this C8 Corvette Z06 behind me for MSRP. There was a little bit of a fight involved in getting it for MSRP, but nonetheless, I got it for MSRP. Now, I have received a bunch of emails about this, and before we can really dive into exactly what the issue is, let's talk a little bit about the history of what's going on here. So, rewind to July of 2019. I bought a 2019 C7 Corvette ZR1, brand new, for about $12,000 under MSRP. And that was just kind of the way it went. I didn't fight for it. I didn't have to push real hard on negotiations or anything. The car was already listed at $12,000 under MSRP. And this was at the height of the ZR1's popularity, the C7 monstrous ZR1, and here it is for $12K under, brand new. That was really just kind of a sign of the times. That's basically how things were then. So in 2019 and years prior, you could get a Corvette for under MSRP without much of a fight. Now, fast forward a year after I bought my ZR1, and you would think we're living on a different planet. Everything was different. Chevy decided that they were going to make a C8 Corvette, and it was going to be their first ever mid-engine Corvette. And what that led to was Chevy not making enough of these cars and misunderstanding the demand that these things were going to bring, and it created an over MSRP kind of economy. So Chevy originally promised us that we were going to be making somewhere around 40,000 Stingrays a year. In the first year and second year, they didn't even hit half of that number. So the amount of people that were interested in this car was unlike any other generation, so they massively misunderstood the demand for this thing. Now, couple that with COVID happening and parts supply issues and all this other stuff, now you have a recipe for disaster. The dealerships were definitely taking advantage of that disaster. They were charging massive markups on even a C8 Corvette Stingray. In the beginning especially, they were $50,000 to $80,000 over MSRP, which was just ridiculous for a car that was supposed to start at $59,995. So just a hair under 60 grand is where this car was supposed to start. And really, nobody on this planet purchased one for that price. Not in the beginning, at least. Now, fast forward another couple years, now the C8 Corvette Z06 is out, and when it first came out, people were paying $100,000 to $200,000 over MSRP for this car to get it as soon as possible. That is just insane when you factor in the fact that this car is already around $150,000 to $170,000 fully loaded. Plus another $200,000 on top of that, you're very, very much so into Lamborghini, Ferrari territory at that price. And at that point, is it worth it? Now that is where we're going to step in and start talking about the emails that I've been getting. So I have gotten at least 1 or 2 emails about this per day for the last 6 to 8 months. And the email almost always starts off the same. It says, "Hey Justin, I'm a big fan of the channel. I recently ordered a Stingray and or Z06 and everything went swimmingly until the car arrived at the dealership. Now all of a sudden the dealer is telling me my car is going to be 15, 20, 30, 40, 50,000 over MSRP. They're waiting until the last second to tell people this, of course. That's the greedy salesman way. But then the email always ends the same way too. What do you think I should do? Should I just pay the over MSRP or should I try to find another car? This is where things get hairy. Nowadays especially, it is very difficult to even find an allocation, let alone get one that's going to not be 7 years in the future. This is where things get interesting because a lot of my subscribers, and like it or not, a lot of the people that are interested in the Corvette in general are 70 or 80 years old. And a lot of them will openly tell me in their emails Justin, this might be my last Corvette and I'd like to enjoy it before, I pass on. And of course, that's a valid concern. So if that's the case, they don't really necessarily have the time to wait for an MSRP deal or for another allocation to come up. So this is kind of a hairy situation. Now, in my situation, I'm a YouTuber. I need these cars to make any kind of money on my YouTube channel. So I needed this C8 Z06. Luckily for me, I was able to get it for MSRP, but if I had to pay over, at one point I was willing to do that. I was willing to pay up to $20,000 over to get this car, but I didn't like the idea of it. I certainly didn't want to do it, but I knew that I could make the money back off of my channel if I had the car to make the content with. So it made sense for me to pay over if I would have had to have. If that's not the case for you, if you're not a YouTuber, you don't make any money on this car, so there's no way you can advertise, your business or something on it to help make some of the money back, and you're younger, between 20 and 50 years old, I would suggest you wait. You'll probably be able to get this car at MSRP in the next couple years. Now, with that said, some of you guys don't have that luxury. Some of the guys, like I said, are between 70 and 80 years old and their time is coming and they know that. They're the ones that don't want to wait. They're the ones that really can't wait. They want to get the car as soon as possible to enjoy it before they pass on. And I totally understand that. So what do I tell these people? This is really difficult, by the way. Like, I'm sure I've said this a couple times in the video, but this is a hard situation to be in because I want to give you guys the best advice I possibly can, but I really don't like the idea of paying over MSRP. Nobody should. It's a horrible thing. At the same time, this is the world we live in. And if you want the car ASAP, something's got to give. You got to give the dealership a reason to give you the car versus the next guy in line. Oh man, I really hate making this, by the way. I hate talking about this kind of stuff because it's not fair. It's absolutely not fair, and it's kind of pathetic. It's really just not something that we should have to deal with. So again, my answer to this is always going to be, can you make money with the car? If the answer is no, and you're young, I would suggest waiting. If the answer to this question is yes, you can make money, and it doesn't matter what age you are at that point, go ahead and pay over to a certain extent. I wouldn't pay at this point, this day of near the end of January 2024, I would not pay more than $10,000 over for a Z06 and $20,000 over for a Z07. I would not pay anything over for a Stingray at this point. So as of this day, these are the numbers that I would give any one of my subscribers. If you're trying to get a Stingray, do not pay a penny over. Those cars are MSRP or under all day, every day now. The Z06 is still rare enough that you might have to pay something over. I wouldn't go over $10,000 for the Z06 and maybe $20,000 for the Z07. That's it. I would not go any higher on those numbers than that. Now, soon enough, we're going to be seeing a C8 ZR1 rolling around, and when that car comes out, you bet your bottom dollar that car is going to be 200 plus over MSRP when it first comes out. 6 to 8 months down the road, you're going to be looking at probably 20 to 30,000 over. But again, can you wait? Because the car's already going to be really expensive. If you can wait, I definitely would suggest waiting. I just had a subscriber call me yesterday and asked me about a car that he had delivered to the dealership. It was MSRP all the way up to the car basically getting shipped to the dealership. Now all of a sudden, they wanted $15,000 over for it. Now this is a Z06, Z07 package car that he has spec'd from the very beginning to the very end. I told him the same thing I'm going to tell you guys on the phone. You spec this car out from the very beginning. This is your spec through and through. You got a Z07 car, which is really hard to get right now. If you drop this car, which you definitely could, just keep in mind what it's going to take to get another one. You're going to have to find an allocation. You're going to have to wait for that allocation to mature to the point where a Z07 is even possible to order. Then you're going to have to wait for that order to be put through, the car to be built, all of this stuff. You're looking at, I would say, 8 months to a year before those things fall into place. And it could realistically be longer depending on the size of the dealership. Ultimately, I told him to go ahead and do it because $15,000 over today, end of January 2024, is not horrible. And trust me, I absolutely hate that we live in a world where I can say that and actually be serious, that $15,000 over for a Z07 car is not that bad. Like it or not, that's where we're at. So he decided he's going to go ahead and do that because, like I said, if he drops that car, it could be years. Best case scenario, 6 months to a year. Worst case, 2 or 3 years. So Again, I'm not sure of his age, but I could tell he's definitely older. So again, is it something that you want to wait for? Most of the time, the answer is going to be no. You don't want to wait. And I get all of us are impatient. We're in a very different world nowadays where everything is immediately available. If you want to buy something on Amazon, you'll have it in 2 days. So everybody wants everything immediately, and I get that. Do you want it, or is it something that you really can't wait for? And it's not so much that you're anxious to have it. Can you really not wait? And just like I said, the biggest situation or the biggest example of that is when you're older. You're in your 80s and possibly even older than that. Can you wait? Is that something that's is that even an option for you? And if it's not, then pay over. I mean, I would hate it, and you should hate it too. You should hate every second of it. But once you get into this car, once you sit in this car and you get to drive it and you get to experience it, you're going to forget about paying over pretty quickly. Now, guys, I want to clarify, this video is not me saying that I agree with the dealerships charging over, or I agree with anything that's happening in the world today. That is not the case. I do not agree with any of this. This is unfortunately the world we live in, and unfortunately this is the stuff we have to do to get the cars that we want to get. That's all there is to it. I wanted to make this video just because I've gotten so many emails about this, and I wanted you guys to fully understand my position here. I don't make any money when you guys pay over on a car. The only ones that do are the dealership greedy guys. That's not what I'm doing. I'm not trying to create an extra income revenue for myself, but it is something that has to be done if you want to get the car sooner than later, just because the greedy dealership world is the one we live in. Anyway, guys, hopefully this helped you. I really just wanted to get this out there because I wanted people to understand a little bit more about why I give them the answers that I do with this. If you guys have questions about it, of course, leave them in the comment section down below. I'm always glad to hear from you guys. So if you have any questions or any unique situations you'd like to talk about, feel free to email me and we will definitely talk. But guys, if you liked the video, please smash the thumbs up button. Let me know you're liking the content so we can keep making these kind of informational videos. I'm always willing to help out any way I can, and this was just another way. So if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. I got loads of content coming you guys aren't going to want to miss. And as always, I will catch you in the next upload.